The Victorian era is often remembered as a time of elegance, invention, and rigid manners, but behind the lace, gas lamps, and horse-drawn carriages, everyday life was filled with hidden dangers that most people didn't recognize or couldn't avoid. From the homes they lived in, to the clothes they wore, and even the medicine they trusted, risks were everywhere. In this video, we're uncovering 20 of the most shocking dangers that made life in the 1800s far more treacherous than it looks in the history books. 1. Arsenic wallpaper. In wealthy Victorian homes, brightly patterned wallpaper was a status symbol. But one of the most fashionable pigments of the time was Scheele's green, which was made with arsenic. Over time, the paper shed tiny particles of poison into the air. Families who lived in beautifully decorated rooms began experiencing headaches, skin lesions, vomiting, and eventually, death. The scariest part, many didn't even realize their lovely green walls were slowly killing them. 2. Gaslighting. Before electricity, streets and homes were lit with gas lamps. While they gave off a warm glow, they also leaked deadly carbon monoxide. People went to bed in well-lit homes and never woke up, poisoned silently in their sleep. On top of that, open flames meant that a small leak could cause an explosion, turning a single lamp into a fireball. 3. Corsets. Corsets were a daily essential for Victorian women, shaping the body into the desired hourglass figure. But tightly lacing them for long periods compressed ribs, restricted lung capacity, and even shifted internal organs. Women fainting in public became such a common event that fainting couches were placed in homes. Doctors warned against tight lacing, but fashion was stronger than medical advice. 4. Lead makeup. Victorians prized pale, smooth skin as a sign of refinement. To achieve it, women powdered their faces with cosmetics made of lead. Over time, this toxic metal built up in the body, leading to tooth decay, hair loss, and permanent nerve damage. Many of the so-called beauty products that made women look elegant were slowly robbing them of their health. 5. Exploding kerosene lamps. Kerosene lamps lit most homes, but they came with a terrifying risk. If the lamps overheated, tipped over, or were cheaply made, they often exploded. Fires spread rapidly through homes filled with wooden furniture, drapes, and candles. For families living in tightly packed cities, one lamp accident could wipe out an entire household. 6. Contaminated food. Food safety was practically non-existent. Meat spoiled quickly. Butchers often sold it anyway, and additives like chalk, plaster, or even red lead were mixed into bread, milk, and candy to make them look fresher. Canned food, a new invention, sometimes carried deadly botulism. Every meal came with the hidden risk of poisoning. 7. Street sewage. In most cities, human waste flowed openly through gutters or into rivers. During hot summers, the stench was unbearable, and more importantly, it carried diseases like cholera and typhoid. Outbreaks could sweep through entire neighborhoods within days, killing thousands. The famous Great Stink of London in 1858 forced lawmakers to finally begin modernizing the sewer system. 8. Workhouse conditions. For the poor, the workhouse was often the only option for survival, but these institutions were overcrowded, unsanitary, and cruel. Families were split apart. Children were forced into hard labor, and diseases spread like wildfire. Instead of offering safety, workhouses were often a death sentence. 9. Dangerous medicine. Without modern regulations, many Victorian medicines were little more than poison in a bottle. Cures contained mercury, arsenic, or dangerous amounts of opium and alcohol. Parents unknowingly gave their babies soothing syrups laced with morphine. Instead of healing, these remedies left people addicted, poisoned, or worse. 10. Coal smoke. Coal-powered Victorian industry, but it choked the air with soot and smoke. Cities like London were covered in a black haze. Breathing this daily led to black lung disease, chronic coughs, and early death. During winter fogs, visibility dropped so low that people couldn't see a few feet in front of them. 11. Child labor. Children as young as 5 worked long hours in factories, coal mines, and chimneys. In textile mills, they crawled under dangerous machinery. In coal mines, they hauled heavy loads in suffocating conditions. Injuries and deaths were common, and the constant labor stunted both growth and health. 12. Contaminated water. Drinking water was often drawn straight from rivers polluted with sewage. Entire towns unknowingly drank water laced with human waste. Cholera outbreaks claimed thousands of lives, before doctors finally proved the link between dirty water and disease. 13. Poor surgery practices. Surgery in the early Victorian era was brutal. Anesthesia was only introduced in the 1840s, and antiseptics weren't common until later. Surgeons often operated with unwashed hands and reused instruments, leading to deadly infections. Many patients chose death over going under the knife. 14. Matches made with phosphorus. Match factory workers, many of them young girls, handled white phosphorus daily. Prolonged exposure led to a horrifying disease called farcy jaw, where the bones of the face decayed and glowed faintly in the dark. Despite the risks, the industry kept using phosphorus for years because it was cheap and profitable. 15. Dangerous clothing. Victorian women's fashion was not just restrictive, it was dangerous. Dresses were made of highly flammable fabrics, and skirts often brushed against fireplaces or candles. Countless women died in fiery accidents, their massive dresses acting like kindling. Crinolines, those wide hoop skirts, made escaping from fire nearly impossible. 16. Rat-borne diseases. Overcrowded cities were crawling with rats, and with them came fleas and disease. Typhus, known as jail fever, spread rapidly through prisons and slums. Lice infestations were so common that scratching until bleeding was an everyday reality for the poor. 17. Train travel. The railway revolutionized transportation, but early trains were poorly regulated. Derailments, boiler explosions, and track failures often killed dozens at once. Even when trains stayed on track, passengers risked sparks, setting their clothing on fire, or injuries from sudden stops. 18. Alcohol as medicine. Doctors prescribed alcohol for everything, from headaches to childbirth pain. While it numbed discomfort, it also led to widespread dependence. Drinking was so ingrained in medicine that even children were given doses of brandy or gin when sick. 19. Teeth cleaning with acid. Dentistry was primitive, and one beauty hack involved using nitric acid to whiten teeth. While it worked temporarily, the acid quickly stripped away enamel, leaving teeth painfully exposed to decay. Many Victorians ended up losing their teeth entirely thanks to this practice. 20. Contaminated milk. Milk was often watered down to stretch profits, then improved with additives like chalk or plaster. Not only did it taste awful, but it spread disease and contributed to high infant mortality rates. Babies who relied on milk for nutrition often grew sick and died from the very food meant to keep them alive. The Victorian era dazzles us with images of carriages, gowns, and elegant manners, but beneath the surface, life was filled with danger, from deadly beauty products to poisoned food and unsafe medicine. Victorians lived every day surrounded by risks they barely understood. It's a reminder of how far we've come, and how the luxuries we take for granted today were once matters of life and death.